Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, back on F1 2020 as always. But you can also see we are returning with another F1 Esports video. And this first clip you're about to see here is from the run that I had previously uploaded, I think a few weeks ago. I haven't done an attempt since. That was my best run. I know I can definitely improve it by quite a lot, but I just want to give you this perspective first before we move on to, let's say, a bit more of an accomplished run by someone who is one of the very, very best as of right now. And you can see this whole objective is you as Valtteri Bottas round Monza, and your aim is to just get as far ahead as possible as Lewis Hamilton, or even beat Leclerc, and you get points based on the assist you use or the assist you take off, the fastest lap, when you overtake them, the amount of warnings you have, and just how fast you can possibly do the complete event in, pretty much. And you can see I overtook Lewis Hamilton on the first sector of lap 50, and you can see at this point I'm using quite a lot of ERS to do it, and I'm quite down on fuel and the ERS count as well, but I didn't get any warnings. My fastest lap was a 20.7, which I just do now, a very low 20.7, and at the time that was only my second or third complete run that I'd ever done, and coming across the line we're about 5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, and this is run on 110 AI difficulty. So for the first couple attempts that was actually pretty good, and I don't think I could have really, I think it could improve by 2 to 3 seconds max, which would bring me down to 74, 41, 42. And you can see we've got 209,000 there. And you can see on the leaderboard, that also put me in P2, just behind ADT Kowalski, who has since improved by quite a bit to about 217 or 16, I think it's 216,000 he's on now. But as a first attempt, as I said, I was actually pretty content with that. But now we move on to, obviously, if you don't recognize who this man is the one and only Mr. Jarno Opmeer. And if you haven't been watching F1 Esports, the team I manage, Alfa Romeo Racing Orlan, consists of Jarno and Daniel Beresnay, and right now they are performing absolutely exceptionally, with Jarno actually winning the driver's title right now, along with the constructors of Alfa as a team. So it's been a great start for us, and no one else other than him really should be showcasing this, because he is on top of his game right now, and I think one of the very, very best on the game, quite clearly. So this is his best run that he did, and I was going to do a side-by-side, but I think it's just better if I just show you a full view of his. And you can check it out on his channel in the description down below. He actually does a commentary of this himself if you want to check out from his perspective of his initial thoughts. But I'm just going to dissect this and just take you through, as I always do with other F1 eSport videos. And we're just checking out the description. As I said, your Valtteri Bottas, you've got about 6 laps to try and overtake Hamilton, your teammate, and Leclerc as well. And here we go. So coming into here now, hooking this inside, and you can already see, if you compared our runs side by side, he is just so much more aggressive with the wheel, and that's something I've spoken about in my own driving. I think that's a weakness in my driving, which often in the race provides to be quite a good thing, but especially when it's ultimately about 7 qualifying laps in a row that you're really looking to do here. Being that aggressive is really, really beneficial when you're just going for that ultimate lap time rather than consistency. But the thing that separates the very, very good drivers from the exceptional or the great drivers, such as Jarno, in my opinion, is just being able to push it on that limit, but do it consistently all the time. And I think that's the difference probably between myself and Jarno as well, that I feel I'm very consistent, and at times I feel I have the speed over a lap or in a race to actually certainly even hang with them. I think if I did F1 Esports, I think I could even potentially get into regular points, but to do it over a lap and consistently, no, that's where the difference is. Because his first lap, he's done a 20.2 0.5. So going into this braking zone, he brakes just after the 100-meter wall, hooking the inside of this, missing this curb, short shifting into third gear. And this is where he decides to use his ERS. He uses it predominantly in this first sector because that is where it is going to be most beneficial. That's the slowest point of the track, and that's where you're going to get the most advantage from it because ERS is very, very difficult to save around here. So you can see going through into this corner, the first Lesmo here doesn't use any ERS on the exit of that, using all the track on the exit. 5th gear through here. I decided to use 4th, but with the setup he's using, he uses a little bit of the ERS here because he wants to try and close in Hamilton at a good time. But notice this, he swings out to the left and then goes back to the right, and he does it a bit more obvious throughout the remaining laps. But the reason why you do that, and the reason why he does that, is that it just allows you to shift the weight of the car from side to side. So it allows you to kind of slide your way into a corner. It just gives you a much better direct line, and he does that so well through Ascari. So coming across here, this is his first proper lap. It's another 20.5 with using a little bit of ERS, but he still has 3/4 of it pretty much to play for. So braking at the same point, once again, nice and hard. You can see he's leaving nothing on the table here. And an esports event like this, you can't afford to just be casual for one lap. You have to push every single lap. So once again, he uses it all coming off that turn 2. Going to the first sector split, it's only 100th down, so very consistent. Using 3rd gear and then short shift into 4th gear. Now he's coming up behind Lewis Hamilton. And that's why he used a little bit of ERS coming out of this second Lesmo here. Because on these events, the timing of where you get to the AI is incredibly crucial. So he's going to go in the DRS. He's not using any ERS at this point because he doesn't need to. He's got the DRS on Lewis Hamilton, so he will be closing on the straight line. So you can see again, moving to the left and then back over to the right before he does the left. Just swinging the car going into there. And the way I describe that technique is kind of like a pendulum where you push it from one side. The momentum, it's going to be much easier to go in the other direction, whereas if you did it from a dead stop, you're going to have to use a lot more effort and momentum to do it. So it's a very, very efficient way of doing it. And now he is using some DRS and ERS at the same time. He does a 20.3 in the succession, and now he gets Hamilton on the start of lap 49, and he's able to take the race line, but he goes in a little bit deep here. So that is really the first mistake that I have seen from him so far, and using a little bit more ERS to escape it here. But that is crucial that he was able to use the racing line, so he didn't really lose too much time. And now he's had the DRS, he's 3 tenths up on his fastest lap so far. And comparing it to my run, I got Hamilton on the next lap, so he's done a full lap earlier than me, and he's already under 4 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. So this is looking very, very good to potentially even catch him, because the way this event works as well is that you get a huge boost in points. For an example, you could be doing a faster total time than someone else, but if you have a 2 or 3 tenths of that faster lap, then you actually probably will get more score. And this also goes for being able to overtake the car up ahead of Charles Leclerc. He'll get a big boost in points for that. So at this lap here, he's using quite a lot of ERS throughout this lap because he knows this is probably going to be his fastest lap that he's done in the session, and it is. It's a 20.2 now, and you can see the gap is about 2.5 seconds away. So going through the lap once again, like Scale Electrics, just trying to hook the same point every time, and you could just see the apex speed, just the minimum apex speed he carries through the corners is just absolutely exceptional. And I can promise you, if you're using the same setup as him and trying to drive this way, it is so much harder than it looks. 3rd gear, short shift into 4th gear, just to minimize the traction, using all of the track, especially through this corner. You can see go through here, hitting that apex a little bit, but using all of it, all the way up to that right line. And does the little technique going into this corner as well, little stabs at the steering wheel halfway through, and he's using the DRS now because he wants to try and get Leclerc on this main straight and get the DRS through. So again, you can see drifting out to the left and then back to the right as the curb starts. That's where you're going in, and absolutely millimeter perfect throughout that entire section. And this is the difference between, as I said before, very good drivers and then the great drivers. They're able to do this consistently. So now he's timed this to perfection as well. He's actually got up to the back of Charles Leclerc. Like with Lewis Hamilton, he's going to try and use as little ERS as possible. He's going to stick to the racing line, so he's not going to lose any time, still avoiding using the ERS, and he should be safe. And going into here, this time he manages to execute it very nicely, because I think the move that he did on Hamilton, he actually lost a good few tenths going through that first sector as well. Could have even been a high 19 as a fast lap, which really would have boosted his points tally even more. So going into the first sector, exactly the same. That was very lucky that wasn't a corner cut. That was absolutely on the limit. Going through here, touching his curb. On the exit once again, almost losing the car. So he is really throwing it in, and once again having a little correction for steering wheel. This is what it takes if you want to be at the top of an F1 Esports qualifying event. You can't afford to relax. You have to do quali lap after quali lap. Same technique again, all the way up to the white line. And yeah, it's just less than a car's width or tyre's width from invalidating all the time. And if you get an invalidation, you might be able to do the instant flashback, but you will lose just a lot of points on the total score at the end. You can see it again using all the tracker parabolica on the exit. So starting the penultimate lap of here, it's been a 20.3. He's always done a 20.5, so constantly under that the entire time. But now he's started to run a little bit lower on the ERS, but using lean in the heavy traction zone. So using lean in turns 1 and 2, uses the ERS coming out of this corner, and I believe he will use lean again going through into chicane. But the very fast corners is not really necessary. So coming into corners such as this, goes back down to lean, and the reason for that is because it's just a very heavy traction zone, especially when you're accelerating on that curb. But coming into here, he does actually pull it into lean, because again, if you run on this curb, that could really create a lot of loss of traction. But going onto this one, the curb is definitely a lot easier to go on the traction as well. It's just not as tricky, pretty much in a nutshell. But moving over to the left, then back to the right, just to get that little swing of momentum for Ascari, because if you can carry all that speed through here, it will carry over to the momentum of this very long straight. I believe he's going to keep it enriched coming into here, which he does. That will provide a little bit of extra rotation as well. And now he's just got absolutely throw it in. And he uses EOS incredibly efficiently, because he only really uses it coming out of turn 2. And he was able to pass Leclerc, especially Leclerc, with minimal amount of EOS on both of the AI cars of Leclerc and Hamilton. So again, this is going to be like clockwork through here, just trying to do the same thing every single time. Looks like he's going to finish the event with actually a little bit more fuel, but sometimes just having that better traction is just so much more beneficial than having a lighter car. Going through into here, he's about 2 tenths down, because of course he had the DRS before. This time, no risk of getting a corner cut, so he's probably trying to play it just a little bit safe in this last lap, just to make sure he doesn't get a validation. I think that was confirmed going through into here. He doesn't want to throw this run away, although that was very close on the exit. And now he is going to deploy the rest of his ERS. Coming up to here, almost a lapped car he's almost going to catch. Swinging in once again, millimeter perfect on the left, and then the right, and then the left, and then on the exit as well. He's going to use the rest of his ERS. I don't think he's going to improve his lap time, but he's going to use the rest of the fuel and the ERS. He goes for a parabolica at the 50-meter board. That's where you brake and turn. They're keeping it in 5th gear. Use all the track on the exit. Take a nice tight line to the finish line, and what is it going to be? It's a 20.2, a purple last sector on that last lap. Talk about taking it easy. He definitely wasn't taking it easy on that last sector, and I think that was almost a perfect run. I think he could have gained a few tenths with Hamilton, and maybe a tenth or two here throughout, if you put it across 6 laps or something like that. But he's done a 74.38.7. That's 218,000. That is just absolutely mental. And you're going to see where this puts him on the leaderboard once it comes up now. That puts him P3, but I can confirm the top 2 times they are not legit, because that is a 29 and a 34, 4 seconds faster. That is not possible if you look at everyone else on that leaderboard as well. I think that is due to the instant replay glitch where you can just gain time. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed that POV from Mr. Jarno Opmeer himself. Please check out his channel. Can't wait to do more F1 Esports videos in the future. Thank you so much, and I will catch you soon. Peace.